To give us an agent's perspective on the selling process, I'm joined by Nyree Ewings. Nyree is one of Queensland's award-winning agents and is also the chair of the REIQ sales chapter and a leading sales agent with LJ Hooker in Cleveland. Nyree, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be here.
Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
So let's start with the first question, which is of course the role of a sales agent in the selling process. What is it about that role that makes it so critically important?
I think that's a multifaceted answer, to be honest, but I think the critical points around having an agent is, having somebody who can be a really neutral party, somebody who's not emotionally connected to a property that can represent you, somebody who can professionally represent the sale of the property and hopefully create some competition with multiple buyers for an owner.
Yeah, great. And of course, Nyree, we do know that sometimes sellers are tempted to adopt the do-it-yourself model to save some dollars.
Definitely.
Obviously, we both have a view on that, but let's talk about the advantages of using a professional sales agent.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess the advantages with using a sales agent is somebody who's completely independent, somebody who can, create that competition like I just sort of touched on a little earlier, understand, the legislation requirements as well. So not just things about pool safety or smoke alarms, but how to create that competition between the buyers, how to do it in an ethical and a really professional manner, to understand the difference in the terms and conditions, and to use those leverage points to, of course, increase the sale price as well, or the offer price for the owners to consider too.
Yeah, I think they're really important points. I think it can be incredibly challenging to sell your own property and of course to have to deal with all of the questions and phone calls and to do that in an objective manner. And of course we know that sales agents often have that database of interested parties that makes such a critical difference.
Because it's something that we deal with absolutely every single day, and we're in the field every single day. You're right, we're having all of these conversations with buyers and with sellers all of the times. I guess even sometimes real estate agents try to sell their own properties too. I guess one of the parts that people would struggle with trying to represent themselves is, of course, receiving some of the negative feedback, or buyers not being able to be open or honest about how they really feel about the home or its position in terms of the market.
Yeah, that's right. And I know that over the years we've sometimes heard those anecdotes about people who have started the process selling the property by themselves and have later on decided that they do need the assistance of a real estate agent. So it can actually end up costing you some precious time as well.
Definitely.
Now, let's talk about street appeal. We talk a lot about the importance of street appeal when we put our property on the market. People will do drive-bys. So tell us about how you can really elevate the street appeal of a property and where you should be investing your dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, street appeal is so important because I guess a lot of people like to judge a book by its cover. They like to see something that's really impressive from the front to begin with to sort of entice them inside. So things that can be done to improve value or improve appearance from the street and that curb appeal would be things like, a little bit of landscaping, whether that's sort of bringing in some fresh mulch, making sure the lawns are looking good, neat and tidy, snipped as well, so whippersnip too. And then of course it could be a little bit of fresh painting or ensuring that the fencing looks good from the front as well. Even a pop of colour if there's some plants and things like that too.
Yeah, and I think those are things that don't need to cost the world but can make such an extraordinary difference.
Definitely.
So now I want to talk a little bit about the types of costs associated with selling your home. Sometimes sellers don't understand the difference between an agent's commission versus the money that is invested into marketing and promotion. So how do you go about explaining that to a seller and explaining why both are different but important?
I guess the opportunity to meet somebody face to face, is always a better chance to sort of explain the difference between the two fees and that they are two separate items. Of course, it does influence when other agents around you, of course, are including them all in as one particular fee as well, and sort of hiding it all inside the commission or charging a higher commission to cover those things too. When you get the chance to explain to somebody face to face that one is the investment in trying to find the buyer and the other one is using the negotiation skills and the leverage of the agent to actually actually achieve the outcome and the result as well. But you know, sometimes you only get stuck sort of explaining things either via an email or even sometimes via a text, which can be also challenging, or people just want to know the upfront fees before they sort of dive in to understand the value difference in those positions behind each agent and the experience that's there as well.
Yeah, and we know that marketing dollars make such an important difference because ultimately, in an ideal world, we want to get as many eyeballs onto that property as possible so that we can really throw that net out far and wide and look for that right buyer.
Absolutely.
So Nyree, let's now talk a little bit about the sale of a tenanted property because this can be quite challenging and quite unique to selling, if we compare it, selling an investment property that has a tenant in it versus selling a family home, for example. There are some legislative constraints.
Sure.
So what advice can you give to people who are embarking on that process?
As a seller or as an agent or as both?
Well, probably both, yeah.
Sure. I think from the seller's perspective and from the agent's perspective as well, and I deal with a lot of tenanted properties down our way as well, so selling them that either have long-term tenants in place, that either have long leases in place, and or some that are sort of, you know, just a couple of months out from expiring as well. So I am really experienced in that field, but I think it's about respecting the person who's there and respecting their space as well. You know, just like you would with any seller, I would treat the tenant exactly the same way and explain the process to them, invite them on that journey with you so they can understand that it's a common goal of what we're trying to achieve. But, you know, if they say no to something, you know, trying to be understanding instead of forcing down the situation. I've got a tenant at the moment and they've agreed to the first 2 weeks of open homes and you work in together.
Yeah.
You know, so if that's, you know, sort of buying them a bottle of wine or buying them a candle as a gift to say thank you, you know, right at the start of the process, because you know that the whole selling process is about to inconvenience the tenant as it does any owner.
Yeah.
I've never met a buyer, a tenant or an owner that's so excited to see me every single Saturday for an open home. So, you know, again, it's just about respecting their personal space and about finding some common ground to work together and move forward from there.
Yeah, I think they're really important comments. I think communication is key, but as you say, recognising that it is an inconvenience for the tenant, and so therefore it's important to be respectful and work around their needs and their interests too. So that's good advice. And just finally, we're in a very fast moving market, but markets do change. So the seller looking to establish the right asking price for the property. We know that sellers can sometimes base that asking price on their needs rather than market conditions. So maybe some advice for anyone out there who is thinking about selling and trying to find the right way to determine the price. What are some good tips?
Well, of course, interviewing more than one agent, and I know I'm an agent saying that, but I think it's important to get a feel for what other people believe is achievable in the market, and also taking into consideration the marketing strategies that are working in that particular area, not ones that you've necessarily used before and you know sort of 6 hours away or you know sort of half a country away, because sometimes your experience and how that's led and guided you there may not be the same you know sort of effective tools that are actually in your local space as well. You know, auctions certainly play a great part in the selling process, you know, and it's important to understand sort of where their effectiveness sits as well, and same with private treaty too. Private treaty has a lot of successes as well, and understanding that whether that's price or no price, and getting that advice from the agents that are in the field doing the work for you at the time, but interviewing multiple agents to get a feel on where they feel that it can be achieved, but also on their marketing strategy and how to achieve that as well.
Yeah, great advice, and I think that's where that objective data plays such an important role, because inevitably human beings tend to base their asking price on what they need or what they think rather than objective data. So a good agent will of course be able to share that data with you.
And they should have themselves been having had the opportunity to actually walk through a lot of these properties, not just view them online like every other owner is doing to try to form an opinion, but actually having been inside to understood what was the story inside. Was there a situation from the selling or the buying perspective? Were there issues from the building and pest perspective? And did it paint a different picture inside than what it did online as well? So it's understanding the nitty-gritty to actually sort of give really quality and great advice to an owner.
Yeah, that's excellent advice, Nyree. No Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Antonia Mercorella, CEO of the Real Estate Institute of Queensland. Thanks so much for watching this video, which is a segment from Prop IQ, a show produced by the REIQ to help provide insights into real estate for both people in the industry and consumers. I'd love it if you could subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we post a new video. Speaking of new videos, you might want to check out this one next.